I braved the elements, both Honda and natural. I turned into the abominable Snowdan, but most importantly, I saw some amazing movies at the 2017 Sundance Film Festival. Over 13,000 films were submitted for consideration, and of those, 188 were selected and screened for the 40,000 plus attendees at this year's Sundance. Now, chances are you're going to see a lot of these films come to theaters later this year, but what should you actually be on the lookout for? Don't worry, I'm here to help. On today's episode of The Dan Cave, I'm going to tell you which Sundance titles you won't want to miss. Briggs Be Bear. Do you have a TV show or a movie from your childhood that you were like obsessed with and it seemed like nobody else knew about? Well, in Briggs Be Bear, that's exactly what happens to James, Kyle Mooney's character. But that's because he was abducted as a child and raised by a pair of insane survivalists, one of whom was played by Mark Hamill. Hey, pretty cool. Now, every week, his captor dad would make a public access quality kids show for him called Briggs Be Bear. And when James is finally out in the real world, he realizes he's the only one who can finish Briggs' story, so he decides to make a movie about it. It's this amazing, powerfully funny, incredibly sweet film about overcoming trauma through storytelling, the support of friends and family. It's also about being dope as and having the most unintentionally terrifying bear mascot this side of Five Nights at Freddy's. The Big Sick. No, it's not yet another nickname for Jessica Chobot, even though it's super accurate. In the grand tradition of Other People and 50/50, The Big Sick is a wickedly funny comedy that takes a sharp turn into heart-wrenching medical drama. Kumail Nanjiani and Emily V. Gordon turned their real-life love story and the health crisis that almost tore them apart into a film that's simultaneously hilarious and devastating. Plus, it features the best scenes of comedians ripping on each other since T.J. Miller described Deadpool's face. The Hero. As someone who would listen to Sam Elliott read the Wikipedia page for Drywall, The Hero was extremely my shit. Elliott plays an aging Western star who, when faced with a life-threatening cancer diagnosis, tries to land one last big role and mend his broken family life. Plus, it features Nick Offerman as his constantly stoned weed dealer who gets incredibly high with Sam Elliott, watches Buster Keaton movies, and eats greasy takeout, which sounds like a pretty ideal afternoon. If you have glaucoma, ideal if you have glaucoma or Chinese food deficiency. I don't know, just be responsible. Ingrid Goes West. Be careful what you post on the internet, because if you're not, a desperate loner played by Aubrey Plaza might move across the country to stalk you and try to become your BFF by waging psychological warfare on you, a popular lifestyle blogger played by Elizabeth Olsen, and your cool friends. Guys, this movie is bonkers in the best way. It's a darkly hilarious thriller that plays kind of like Single White Female or Swim Fan for the social media set, and you can take that fave to the grave. XX. A good horror anthology movie is kind of like a mixtape full of heebies, jeebies, and creepy crawlies that'll give you a taste of the twisted minds of a slew of different directors. And in the case of XX, these directors all happen to be kick-ass women. Jovanka Vukovic, Karen Kusama, Annie Clark, and Roxanne Benjamin to be specific. Now, with 4 drastically different styles of horror, this frightening flick will leave you squirming in your seat for the entirety of its runtime, which, if nothing else, is a great workout from constantly inadvertently clenching your core. Ha! Get Out. This year's Sundance Secret screening was a big studio horror film directed by Jordan Peele. Yet unlike most big studio horror movies, the latter half of Key & Peele's directorial debut has a lot to say, using modern-day racism as a prism through which to extract horror and humor in equal measure. You'll laugh your ass off until suddenly things get way too real, and then you'll be cowering underneath your hooded sweatshirt. Not that I would know, because I hid underneath a jacket. I don't feel at home in this world anymore. This movie's kind of like if the personifications of Craigslist came to life and embarked on a crime caper full of pitch black humor, accidental violence, and Elijah Wood with a rat tail and nunchucks. Because that is exactly what happens. And sure, the title is way too long, like a really long title, but the movie is a killer showcase for Melanie Lynskey, who plays a woman that's finally had enough of life beating her down and takes justice into her own hands. And it tells us an important lesson. For the love of God, people, pick up your dog's poop. That'll make more sense after you see it, but also, just do it IRL. If you're not doing it already, you're a monster. And on top of what I mentioned here, our East Coast editor Michael Arbiter and our writer Scott Beggs recommend the following. Dee Rees's 1940s racial drama Mudbound, the German Manic Pixie fever dream of axolotl overkill, the Armie Hammer starring coming-of-age drama Call Me By My Name, David Lowery's A Ghost Story, which has the best stress-eating scene since I accidentally opened the front-facing camera on my phone while I was eating buffalo wings, and the young Han Solo starring Iraq War film The Yellowbirds. These are all worth keeping an eye on. Make sure you don't sleep on these. And those folks are just a few of the awesome movies from the 2017 Sundance Film Festival. You should definitely keep these on your radar. But tell me, what films do you most want to see? What would you add to this list? Let me know in the comments below and give me an independent thumbs up while you're there. Now be sure to tune in next time or else you might miss the story of a group of scientists and explorers on the hunt for the world's deadliest orphan in Anaconda. Until next time, keep on digging. And a huge thanks to John Wick Chapter 2 for sponsoring today's show. Legendary hitman John Wick is forced back out of retirement by a former associate plotting to seize control of a shadowy international assassins guild. Bound by a bloody oath to help him, John travels to Rome where he squares off against some of the world's deadliest killers. You can see the badass action film when it hits theaters on February 10th, 2017. At Greg1756 asks, on a scale of 10 to frozen chestnuts, how was Sundance? Anything we should seriously be keeping an eye on? Dude, Greg, what the hell, man? Did you even watch today's episode? You know, that old chestnut. That old, what are you doing, Greg? What is going on over there in Scotland, Greg Chestnut? Come on. At Shajir D asks, with Jason Inman and DJ Woolridge coming out with their comic books this year, what would your comic be about? Well, it's a great question, and first of all, let me say, don't forget about Jessica Chobot's comic, Firebrand, which you can read now. While I would love to tell you about my comic, I'm actually working on a couple ideas, so I want to keep them under wraps for now, but I promise you guys will be the first to know if anything comes of it. At Nate B asks, if you had to choose, who in the world would you want to strike a Ginyu Force pose with? Huh. Great question, Nate. I'd probably choose Pharrell with his giant hat, Nicolas Cage from Con Air, Dolly Parton from 9 to 5, and Madeleine Albright, because I think that'd make for like a dynamic visual tableau, and they'd all look great wearing Scouters. But tell me, who would you want to strike a Ginyu Force pose with? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.